Greetings, ladies and gents, and welcome to this narration of the web series Very Clever Primitives, taken from Reddit. If you are new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Chapter 17. Skull on, it's time. I am quite aware, Agent Brown. If you want, we could probably delay the hearing. Wait until you're, 100%. I dusted off my lab coat, my eyes narrowing and scales growing orange with disdain. I was quite done with Earth. I was quite done with all of this waiting. Was I tired? Of course I was. Was I hungry? Well, I was, but I'd rather take the time to properly enjoy human food without some hearing over the fate of both of our people looming over our head. In short, I was done with waiting. I took a few steps forward, feeling a hand rush towards my shoulder, clasping it. Skiyar seemed to want final words as well. My quills rose, my orange deepening in tone. I was sick of playing their waiting games. Skallan, please, if you're not in the right frame of mind speaking to these leaders, a lot of weight will come with your opinion, she muttered, violet in a concern. I scoffed, rolling my eyes and shaking my head. Of course I understand. Skallan will do the best for Bala, as is expected of him, I mocked, waving my hand in dismissal. You act as if I hadn't thought about what I was going to say at all when you first announced that I would be speaking to the leadership of both of our species. I sighed, taking a few steps forward. To be quite clear with both of you, I know exactly what I'm going to say. No amounts of rest or food is going to change my opinion, I stated plainly, a rumble rising from my chest in irritation. Now, Agent Brown, can we please get this over with? The faster I speak my mind, the faster those with far more political clout than you or I can discuss how best to approach this. I just want to go home. Agent Brown was somewhat taken aback by the statement. It wasn't too harsh, was it? Perhaps it was, but it was the honest truth. All I could think was the resting in my own quarters. All I could think about, especially after Skiyar brought it up, was making sure that my apprentice had peace of mind. Her words hit me harder than I thought they would. It hurt to think of how much emotional pull I had over my apprentice. I did care about Skaresh, but did I truly show it? Why would I? It was my duty to educate her, not to be a clutch father. More and more responsibility was placed on my shoulders. Or rather, more and more responsibility was revealed the longer I stayed on Earth. Who in their right mind decided that a scholar had any right to give any opinion on political activities of both of their own species and an entirely different one? Who in their right mind would give someone like me the responsibilities of both molding a nymph into a respectable scholar and a proper Valan citizen? Was that not what academy instructors were for? It wasn't the same, however. I knew that. Nothing could replace a clutch mother and father. I still remembered mine fondly, as well as all my siblings. I still kept in contact with one of them after all these years. He was a warrior caste, however, so our discussions were usually just, as the humans put it, catching up. We shared little in common other than our birth rotation. Still, he did attend my ascension ceremony. Once I was given the title of scholar, just as I attended his once he was named warrior. I was uncertain over the fate of those who raised me as a hatchling. It, just wasn't a thing a lot of Valan thought about. It was a thing we all took for granted. It was what was expected of us. If we were to reproduce, it was expected that we would mind our children for a while before they left to find their place in our society. It was far more personal with humans. Many human children in that hospital were between childhood and adulthood, yet their birth parents were still there by their side. Everything was far more personal with humans than it was with the Valan. For a species that wore their emotions on their sleeves, the Valan seemed rather cold in retrospect. I shook my head free of those thoughts, taking a few more strides towards Agent Brown. As I said, I am ready to speak. Lead me to where they are expecting me, I ordered, actually feeling a bit of satisfaction for finally giving a direction instead of being led by a leash. Agent Brown nodded, both to me and Skiyar, as he turned around and nodded his head towards the hall outside of the guest room. Remember what I said, Skallan, Skiyar called out while my scales took a deeper hue of annoyance. Agent Brown took the hint, and both he and I made our way outside of the room. leaving a nervous diplomat behind. Good riddance. The walk through the hallways of this building seemed far more daunting than I first anticipated, my scales shifting from orange to vibrant green in anxiety. It was far easier to say that I was ready to speak than it was to actually speak. It was not my place to speak. I always hated doing so unless it was in a strict academic setting. Rambling on about information only my own cause cared about was far easier than giving input on political engagements. I gave a faint laugh at the thought, causing Agent Brown to hum. "What's up?" he asked, slowing down his pace to walk beside me. "All I've been thinking of since I've been here was how I wasn't supposed to be doing any of this, how it wasn't my place. I feel like I'm being dragged around, kicking and screaming," I replied, feeling a bit better, finally getting this off my chest. Agent Brown lifted an eyebrow. "That's life, friend, He spoke in a nonchalant tone, shrugging his shoulders. "Very few of us really get to do what we want to do. It's gonna hit you, Valon, very hard when your whole life is based around what you do for work," he muttered, causing me to look at him inquisitively as we turned the corner. "Well, if it is what's expected of us, we are given a role best suited to our personalities and proficiencies," I mused, causing Agent Brown to crack a smirk. "That's, great and all, but I know I'd be absolutely miserable if I had to do this my entire life. You're a scholar. That's all you are," he hummed. I crossed my arms, a bit insulted at this very correct statement. "It is what I am good at," I panted. "Of course it is what you're good at, Scalan. I'm good at my job too. That doesn't stop me from enjoying hosting parties for others or even teaching on the side. Work shouldn't dictate who you are. That's why humans can do hard labor and still be happy. It isn't who they are. They aren't just construction workers or waitresses. They're parents, teachers, priests, and even community activists. Humans can be whatever they want, whenever they want. If you decide tomorrow you wanted to be a performer, could you be one?" More and more people began to appear as we approached our destination, yet his words stung and distracted me from the Valon and the human eyes staring at me in anticipation. "Of course I could. We are people. I am still allowed to have hobbies. I'm even given an allowance of resources to pursue my hobbies. The Valon are not just cogs in a machine," I replied. "I am good at what I do. All Valon are good at what they do. Entertaining others isn't the same as deciding the fate of an entire species," I argued. Agent Brown shrugged his shoulders. "You've got a point, Scalan," he muttered, laughing softly as we moved through the crowd. "Maybe you are ready to speak your piece. Then again, who the hell am I to judge?" he replied as the crowds began to become larger, the volume of their voices growing louder. "Guess it just goes to show that humans don't really know crap. You Valon are the big boys with the big toys. It's really up to you guys if you want your little brothers and sisters to tag along on your big space adventures," he cackled, his expressionless face shifting into something, almost human. It was jarring to see genuine emotion appear on Agent Brown's face for the first time. We approached a few security personnel, each one nodding their heads to Agent Brown and allowing us to squeeze through their burly forms as humans rushed us with microphones and cameras. The security barked at the press, causing them to argue amongst one another as we made our way further and further back. The volume dimmed as we made our way down the hallway with fine art and regal rug that sprawled down its length. It became almost hauntingly quiet as one security guard stood in front of the door, grimming us down with an indifferent gaze. His head was shaved bald, tinted spectacles covered his eyes, leaving only an emotionless face and hulking, burly mass to guard the way. I don't think even Scar-Anna would trifle with such a titan of a human. "This one, Scalan?" he asked, his voice heavily accented, yet he still spoke English. "This is him, Dimitri. Take care of him, Agent Brown requested, causing the huge man to let out a loud guffaw. "No one died yet under me watching them. The area will be fine." He spoke with absolute confidence. This man was to be my bodyguard. I turned to look at Agent Brown in confusion. "I thought you were my escort," I muttered, causing Agent Brown to laugh, shaking his head. "It is the end of our relationship right here, Scalan. I have things to do and people to see. Can't expect me to watch you everywhere. That would be creepy." He nodded, patting my back, quickly pulling his hand back after his flesh pierced one of my quills, causing me to bend over laughing as I spotted the blood. Looks like there was still some stiffness to my quills. I wasn't so old after all. "Damned aliens," he pouted, wiggling his hand as Dmitri took out some gauze from his black, fine-tailored jacket's inner pocket and, without another word, began treating the wound. I took the derogatory statement in stride, perhaps even with a bit of pride. I wounded a human, and, with their remarkable physiology, that was an accomplishment in my book. After the agent's hand had been bandaged up, Dmitri began to mutter into a small wire hooked into his ear. Even with how primitive human technology was, it appeared that they still had quite a few channels to communicate through. It was fascinating, if a bit jarring. Just how many humans had I walked by that had communicated my presence to others? It was no wonder that someone as frightening as Agent Brown and this Dmitri fellow had been tasked to keep me safe during my stay on this planet. "Everything is ready for him, Brown," Dmitri spoke, looking towards the two of us. Agent Brown laughed, giving an almost sad look in my direction as he took a few steps back. "All right, Scalan, that's my cue," he replied, looking towards the other end of the hallway. "I'll be watching. We all will be watching. It's been nice talking to you, an alien. Even if you tell them that the Valan should stay far, far away from humanity, it was still a pleasure to meet one." He spoke, nodding his head in what I assumed was respect. "Take it easy, friend." And just like that, Agent Brown turned and walked away. My gaze lingered on his form as it slowly began to grow smaller until he turned around the corner, vanishing from view. My scales shifted to a deep violet. Even Dimitri's company, I suddenly felt very, very alone. "Scalan," he spoke, his tone gruff and stern, "there is no place to worry. It will be quite simple, for other Valan will already spoken today first. First they will announce you, then you will give small greeting. Then your high command will acknowledge and request your statement and state of humanity. Afterwards, each human leader with a question will announce and ask a question you are under no obligation to answer," Dmitri stated, slowly turning to open the door behind him, the quiet rumbling of hushed voices bellowing out from the circle chamber as the door slowly opened. "Now they're expecting you. Do not be too troubled. I have faith in you. We just met." My eyes went wide. It was filled with humans, all sitting in a circle surrounding a large podium. Each one of them was dressed to impress, somewhat. I recognized some of their formal wear, but others in the crowd of human leaders were wearing outlandish, yet still quite aesthetically pleasing outfits. I was stunned to see how many different cultures humans had. Even more surprising to me was that these different cultures were all sitting down together to discuss this. And I couldn't help but glow a bright blue. We knew they all had different countries and different cultures, but the fact that they were all sitting down together, they weren't connected by remote terminals like I had assumed that they would be. They were together, in person, ready to listen to me. Humanity, the very species that suspected everyone and anyone could kill or harm them, managed to put all of that aside to listen to a different species that stumbled on their front lawn by accident. Needless to say, I was quite impressed. However, they were not the only race present. Towering above them were 3 different monitors. Each monitor cast the image of the bust of the 3 high commanders. Their judgmental gaze poured down on me, and I nearly buckled at the weight. These were legendary figures for my people. Barely anyone saw or even spoke to the 3 of them. My eyes were glued on those monitors in sheer awe. It was kind of funny. I was prepared to step up to the podium and just speak my mind about what had happened. I was ready to shake my fist at these leaders and tell them how I felt, and then take the first shuttle to my ship and sleep for 7 human centuries. However, now that I actually stood in presence of the human and Valan political titans, my courage wavered, and I was but a hatchling again. My heart raced. Dmitri seemed to notice my hesitation and my sudden stage fright, his hand grasping my shoulder as he nodded forwards, silently snapping me out of my daze. Step by cautious step, I moved towards the center of the room. Nervous, stern, and curious human eyes drilled holes into my very soul as I saw the wooden podium with the microphone attached. The flashing red and shuddering sounds of primitive cameras wielded by human press that had been given exclusive access to the room echoed an eerie silence of it all. There was a human at the podium already, a female human with her hair as yellow as the system star. Ladies and gentlemen, scholar of biology Scalan, the woman spoke with a weak smile on her face. The human crowd applauded as I approached the podium myself, slowly beginning to walk up to the small staircase to stage in the center of the circular regal room. The humans applauded, yet the Vallon High Command did not. Instead, each one of them wore a deep green on their scales, except the High Commander of Diplomacy, who wore a soft yellow in his, more than likely quite pleased with all of his communications with another species. I swallowed, slowly leaning forward, my breath echoing into the recording device on the podium as the applause seemed to die down. I extend the warmest greetings, High Commanders and human leaders. I am Scalan. I must apologize in advance. I'm not quite used to this. I spoke softly into the microphone, my voice dim and weak from nerves. The High Commander of Diplomacy's scales brightened. A soft chuckle came from his chest. Relax, young scholar. You've had quite the journey. The High Commander of Diplomacy spoke, his tone and accent a near-perfect match to some of the other humans I'd spoken to. He spoke in perfect English. Over-communicators, no one would ever suspect he wasn't human unless they saw him in person. There was a reason that he was the High Commander of Diplomacy. You have done quite well for yourself, regardless of your trying journey on Earth. However, it is that journey that we need to investigate. Indeed, a booming voice from the High Commander of Warfare spoke, his scales changing from green to a bright yellow to match the diplomat. Our new neighbors gave the other Vallon that came to this planet quite the noble treatment. You are the only one that saw both sides of humanity. You were the only one we decided to leave mostly alone under human supervision. He spoke, causing the High Commander of Scholarship to scoff. Which is why you insisted we warp in to make a display of power when the young scholar found himself in trouble? She asked, a soft hum of amusement rising from her chest. Regardless of our fellow leaders along with us are waiting for your opinions on humanity as a whole. We've heard diplomat after diplomat speak. I'm eager to hear what one of my own caste has to say. Speak, young Scalan. What do you think of humanity? She said. The whole room faded away as I looked up towards the three most respected and valued Vallon in the entire galaxy. These three were elected to lead us. Every Vallon colony, almost unanimously amongst each of the castes, voted for these specific individuals to preside over all Vallon affairs, foreign and now domestic. Each one of them looked down upon me like three gods of old, and they expected me to speak coherently and honestly. And that's not even going into how those nervous human eyes looked at me. I managed to blurt out, feeling, oh, so very small. I cleared my throat, breathing at my nerves, a determined, bold orange yellow appearing at my scales. You wish for my opinion on humanity? Very well. You're the most paranoid, self-centered, and individualistic species any one of our fiction writers could ever have conceived of. I spoke, hushed whispers echoing through the room. They have opinionated, they are bold, they distrust anything different than themselves that could threaten the safety of their people, even if that thing isn't even a threat. In a word, they are dangerous. I paused, a soft laugh following a suit afterwards. But that individuality breeds something great about them. Look around you, High Commanders. All of these completely different leaders, with different cultures, ideals, and beliefs, are still sitting together in peace to greet us. That human danger breeds human achievement. It was humanity that made the first move to greet us. Humanity, for all of its paranoia, still welcomed us onto this planet and didn't attempt to kill us. Well, aside from one, I muttered, clearing my throat. You wish to know my true opinion of humanity? The Vallon Colonial Union and these united human nations could never ever get along. You are just too different. Yet the Vallon people and humanity would be woefully remiss if we did not embrace our new neighbors. We stand to gain so much from each other. We are an old, tired species. Humans are a new hatchling eager to make an impact. We need them just as much as they need us. Humans cannot be matched in their adaptability, their keen intuition, and their remarkable technological advancements in short periods of time, I stated, taking in a deep breath. Humans cannot know failure. They will do everything and anything to succeed, even in the direst of circumstances. They make ferocious enemies and incredible companions. It would be a crime to cut ties with them. But the rotten fruit amongst them would spoil the whole bunch, I admitted, my scales turning a soft violet in woe. I cannot recommend providing these human nations with the means to reach the cosmos alongside us, I admitted. I also cannot recommend we cut ties with them completely. Fortunately, I do have an idea.
And what would that be, Scholar Scalan?
The High Commander of Diplomacy asked, his scales matching my own in their violet hue. Well, my very gracious host, General McCullen, showed me that there are humans amongst these nations that are discarded. There are humans amongst these nations that are wasted potential, in my eyes, considering that humans tend to treat those that offer aid in the highest esteem, even risking physical injury to do so. I propose we take their discarded humans with us. Humans cannot know failure. So why not test their resolve? Why not give these discarded humans another chance to succeed when their fellows decree that they are useless? We provide our hatchlings and nymphs many, many chances at success. I feel that humanity would take those chances and exceed our expectations 10 times over, I stated, my scales growing a bright yellow in hope.
You want us to take humans away from Earth to join us?
The High Commander questioned. I wouldn't call it taking them. I'd consider it opening another door after the first was slammed shut. Let the humans that want to come with us, come with us. Let them show us, and the other humans that thought them lazy or unmotivated, how powerful I know they are. I wished I could grin, for I could almost hear the screams of anger from General McCullum. The High Commander of Scholarship could barely contain her giggling. I personally love this idea. I have noticed human ingenuity as well. It would prove quite an asset to the Academy of Scholarship, she stated.
If humans are as passionate and dangerous as you say, then having them as allies rather than rivals would be a boon,
the High Commander of Warfare decreed, not even hiding his amusement. The only High Commander that seemed uneasy was the High Commander of Diplomacy, who began to notice the rapid whispers of the humans in the room around us.
You pass harsh judgment on our neighbors, Scholar Scalan. You even risk losing much of the friendly communications with such recommendations. However, I too have noticed the harsh treatment of some of these less fortunate humans here on Earth. It is a noble cause to wish to bring them to a better life. However, they are a different species, and, as you said, they are dangerous and individualistic. They are unlikely to acclimate to our culture. They could even risk causing discord amongst our own people. Why should we risk taking humans among us? Why should we lord over these human nations as holier than thou aliens that threaten the stability of their established cultures?
He asked, causing me to recoil at the very good points he made. I'm not saying that we should make them Valan citizens and steal them away. I'm proposing a mutual effort by both these human nations, as well as to create a cooperative union between our species. We stand to gain much from each other, but we also could lose everything if one species dominates the other. Early cooperation and communication could very well make the difference in maintaining our cultural differences. I'd never suggest we simply take humans and force them to become Valan citizens, each human in a caste. That would never work with their individuality. Instead, why not use some of the underdeveloped colony worlds that we have at our disposal to found multi-species academies? Willing humans, as well as willing Valan nymphs, can choose to attend these. Willing humans would be allowed to innovate and find their calling, like we Valan are. And wild nymphs struggling to find a place can bond with a species that share many similarities with them. As the humans say, 2 birds with 1 stone. I nodded. The human crowd hushed, and the High Command of Diplomacy hummed.
What a fascinating idea. You have, thought of this quite a lot. I am genuinely impressed. You would have made a fine diplomat, Scholar Scalan, he replied, turning his head from the side to side. However, how can we be sure that this would not end in disaster? It is a very optimistic viewpoint of an idea, but I fail to see how something like this would succeed in practice, he replied in dismissal. And what would this cooperative union even hope to achieve that we have not?
Well, for starters, we wouldn't be alone in the galaxy anymore, I replied. How long have we been alone, High Commander? Do you really wish to go back to that? I asked. The silence answered my question. Even our High Commander shuddered at the thought of being the only species in the galaxy once more. I closed my eyes, giving a sigh. As for humans, well, I have a hunch that many humans, without very much to show for themselves, would be itching at the opportunity to spite the very world that abandoned them. Perhaps it is a leap of faith. Perhaps it is wishful thinking, optimistic thought. But like it or not, humanity will soon be joining us in the galaxy. They'll work tirelessly to join us. I'd rather see the downtrodden here be extended some sort of courtesy from their galactic neighbors before they watch their fellow humans soar off into the cosmos without being given the opportunity themselves. If humans are deprived of homes, food, and basic necessities right now, how likely is it that they'll be granted permission to see the grand majesty of the galaxy? I asked. There was a pause. It was a very long pause. Was my idea flawed? Very much so. But it was the best input I could provide. I feared these humans, but I grew fond of them just the same. I didn't want to leave them on this planet, nor did I want of them those that failed to succeed to rot on their homeworld. The cosmos was vast enough for everyone, and I believed humanity could very well spark a golden age not even the villain could have even imagined. Of course, it would also be hilarious to see General McCullen's reaction when he saw all of those lazy people make something of themselves with us. Finally, the High Commander of Diplomacy broke the silence. "And how do you propose we allow these humans to join us?" he questioned, causing me to give a faint laugh. "Humans are very physically emotional, High Commander. I'd rather not imagine what would happen if a leader told their people no to our offer." The statement caused another silence. The High Commander of Diplomacy hummed. "We have much to consider. Perhaps it is time for us to deliberate, and the human leaders to question you now," he said, his scales turning green with worry. My eyes went wide. "Oh, right, the human leaders, who I just condemned. This is going to be fun." End of chapter. The algorithm reckons you should be watching this video next, and I recommend that you should be always watching my video. So, click with energy! And yes, clicking that does help the channel. Thank you very much. I'd just like to thank the T5 members and Patreons. Alithia, Barkey, Feudic Meridian 117, Cam Maxwell, Casper Arnholtz, Albarden Guster, Lord Ashrakul, and White Van 420.